Okay, this video we're going to be going over the basic installation on the R bags for the VTX R 1300 and 1800. These bags are for the S, R, and T models. We're going over the wiring to help with brake lights and running lights in the saddlebags. Because there's not enough wire under your fender to splice in and run wires to the bags, we're going to run new wire from under the side cover. When you run the wires, you're going to need about 4.5 to 5 feet to make the whole stretch, because you don't want to come up short. Under the right side cover, you'll find this little hood. Under this hood is all the wires that run back to the back of the fender. These are your turn signals. You don't need to do anything with these because you already have power for those. When you cut your wires off from your stock turns, you just splice into those. Here you have running lights and brake lights, which I spliced in. I used the butt connectors with the heat shrink already on it. I don't plan on putting my turns back on, so I didn't see a need to be able to remove those wires. So you're going to need to run wire for the running and the brake. So I have 2 extra wires run. It goes back into here. Back on the front of the fender is a grommet. That's a pass-through to get inside the fender. Excuse me. Once you're inside the fender, the stock wires run up on the side of the fender up towards the top of it. Just zip tie them every 6 inches or so around the back to get to your whatever position you feel comfortable with. Little trick to make it easier is take shrink tubing, and on your 2 wires run about an inch piece every 4 inches or so, and that'll keep everything nice and easy to work with, so you're not fighting multiple wires. No need to take the seat off and everything. When you're done, just make sure you pull your hood back, tuck it back in, and reinstall your zip tie, the stock tie. That's removable. You don't have to worry about cutting it. You can stick it back on and you're good to go. Your wires on your brake lights have 4 wires. You have a green ground. You have a black wire for your running lights. Your red wire is your brake light, and your yellow light, your yellow wire is your amber turn signals. All the grounds run together. Something I use, which makes things a whole lot easier underneath the fender, because it can get tight, and if you're constantly splicing wires in, it can get annoying. I got these from Chrome Glow. They're a couple dollars. Actually, I think they're like $1.25 for like 2 of them. They're really cheap, but they're reusable. They have a little handle, goes up and down. It opens it up. You can take your wire out. You have run your lead here, and then whatever you're attaching, slide in there. The little handle goes down, and it snugs in. It's great for, instead of having to constantly cut off butt connectors and worry about how much wire you're going to have left in the long run. These things can just open and close indefinitely. I guess at the point where they start to break, but it'll be a long time before that happens, I think. I have these underneath my fender. I just took clear silicone and stuck them to it. So I have 4 on either side, I think. I don't remember. One for brake, one for turn, one for all that. So I can take my bags off in 3 minutes. It's not that difficult. It takes a little longer to wire in, obviously, because you have to get everything back in the holes. These are great. Like I said, it actually costs more to ship them than to actually buy them, which is kind of annoying, but that's what it is. They got them from chromeglow.com. I have no affiliation with them. That's the only place I found them. I'm sure you can get them other places. The actual installation of the bags themselves are pretty straightforward. You have 2 mounting points, 1 bolt there, 1 bolt there. You take your 2 fender bolts off, do one side at a time so your fender doesn't fall in on the tire. Undo your bolts, put the bag up, put your new bolts on. You're going to have to replace the bolts because the stock bolts are not long enough to go through the bag and everything. They're not designed for that. You're going to have to purchase new bolts. I don't provide them because I don't know what sissy bar you have. If you're running a wider tire, I don't want to have a bolt sticking in too far and then rub your tire and have an issue. So the only thing you're going to have to buy is your wire, your connectors, and your bolts. When you bolt them in, just make sure you have your fender washer on the inside, your rubber washer between the bag and your rail. The turn signal tubes, I have another video on how to cut those, how to install those. That's pretty much the gist of it. Make sure you lock tight. I almost lost one of my bags when I went up to Sturgis. I just happened to check it and 1 bolt was completely undone. Loctite them. After you paint the bags, Loctite all of your nuts on your latches, on your hinges. Get the lids properly seated before you do that. Then take one off, do the Loctite, snug it down, go to the next one, Loctite it, snug it down. Because if you undo everything, then everything will start to move and shift on you. These bags, these gaskets are set so that they don't leak. If they do leak, for some reason, if the lid isn't seating exactly where it's supposed to, it's a very easy process to fix that. I'll set up another video for that. That's pretty much it. These bags go on very easily. It's going to take you longer to wire it. And probably cut these. So these are very easy. I have another video on how to do that. Take your time with it. I haven't had any complaints yet on that. But you want to make sure everything's nice and parallel. That's why I don't cut these. So if you have a sissy bar and the bag sits out, if I cut these to length, the bag would sag in, and that wouldn't look right. That's pretty much the gist of it, really. Once you run your wires, get everything set in. So these bags are set up for running, brake, and turn. If no one sees you with these bags when you're hitting the brake, then they're not looking at all. These lights are bright at night. They're bright during the day. They're bright in the sunlight. They're all LEDs. I have them all the way across mine, which I showed in the beginning of the video. And that's pretty much it. If you have installation issues, questions, you can always email me at DaytonaFenderbags@gmail.com. If you're running a sissy bar and excuse me, if you're running a sissy bar, obviously install the sissy bar between these. Use the rubber gasket between the bag and the bar mount. If you have a sissy bar that mounts to the front two, and because these bags mount to the rear two bolts. If your sissy bar mounts to the front two and covers up the rear bolt, then you'll either have to cut a notch around the mount, the sissy bar, the bracket. Either you're gonna have to notch around that to clear this, or drill a hole and have the bolt go straight through. If you need to shim them for any reason, I like to use these whenever I can. The bad part about these this is the size that it is, and you can't really, these are chromed, they're nice and pretty. If you can get the stainless steel ones, then obviously you can cut them down and not have to worry about your chrome. Actually, I think one of these is stainless steel. But these are nice. They have the polyurethane ones, which are very hard. The nice thing about these is that you can cut them down to whatever depth you need, and they really don't look all that bad if you want. Actually, what I did on my old set of bags was I actually took some electrical tape and wrapped it once real nice and tight, and then when I put it on, it just looked like a black spacer. So that's a little trick for that. Or you can probably paint them, I guess, if you wanted to. I don't know if paint would stick to these. But if you're going to run a sissy bar and you need that spacing, local hardware store probably have multiple different sizes. You might have to combine sizes depending on your setup. My old sissy bar I notched just as a quick release. I never had any issues with it as far as breaking or bending. So I wouldn't be overly concerned with that. If you have to remove over half of it to do that, then I think I'll be concerned about it. But I said you can either notch around that nipple that's in there so that the bag sits in a little bit further if you want it to, or drill a hole. You want to try and keep the bags parallel to each other so that these two spines are the same. On mine, I think it's 10.5 inches from spine to spine. It's the same measurement all the way down to the tip. So everything is nice and clean and straight. If you have something tweaked, this part in further than that part, and that part, then the bag is going to look like it's twisted and not sit right. So take your time, tighten everything up, measure it, figure out what you need to space out. Remember that you're dealing with three different points, and you don't want to try and measure up here and down here and try to figure out measurements. This is your point of pivot, so you want to measure as close to this pivot point height-wise as you can. Measure there, get everything adjusted, tighten it back up, check it. So take your time with it. It's not difficult. If you're not running a sissy bar, it's just a straight bolt on, cut your tubes, and run your wires. It's when you have a sissy bar and you need to start adjusting and twisting and not twisting, but shimming to get everything to sit right. That's when it's take a little more time, but just have your assortment of spacers that you think you might need. You can always return them. And so make sure everything's tight. Use your Loctite. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoy them. I enjoy them. I have traveled with these on multiple occasions. You can use all the space inside of these. If you have a stock pipe, well, I take the bottom of the bag, raise it up. The side of the bag doesn't change, so you'll never see the bottom's up. So if you have stock pipes, then you'll lose that little bit of space, or just on one side. But I went for a 10-day trip, fit everything inside there except for my sleeping bag on one trip, I think. But there's a lot of space inside. You can fit gallon jugs in there. I have a photograph of 3-gallon jugs sitting on the bottom of these. So I like them. They complement the bike. Obviously I like them. I make them. But it's a simple install. Your wires are going to be the trickiest part if you're not good at wiring. And your tubes, you can use a grinder, you can use a sander, anything to take that off. So if you have any questions, Daytona Fenderbags at gmail.com, or visit my website at DaytonaFenderbags.com.